name is Riya Jithu and I'm part of NST PM, and today I'm going to be talking about the TS Toolkit.
There are 5 main aspects to the TS Toolkit, starting with the team dashboard, team timeline, team meets, performance management, which is the weekly priority tracker, and the team review. And there are 3 trackers which is there in the AIESEC India network right now, which is for the MB. Then there is a VP's TS toolkit for the EB, and then there is the LCP's TS toolkit, which is to be filled by the LCP for his EB or her EB. Now, before I begin, let me reiterate that the TS toolkits are supposed to be filled in a routinely fashion, where you fill them at regular intervals, where a few things are supposed to be done on a weekly basis and a few things quarterly, and there are a few aspects which are supposed to be done on a monthly basis, which I will be explaining later on in this video. This is the MBTS toolkit, which starts with our dashboard here, which, like you can see here, you insert your team name and team picture. This little square box is just to signify or denote whether you have done all the aspects of the team standards or not. It's just a checklist for you to track. Moving on to the team vision, you put in what success looks like for your team, which you'll be collectively deciding in your team needs, and it will also include the team rules, which you'll be deciding as a team together to follow. Transitions only require you to put yes or no for all the aspects of the transitions having been done or not. And the LDA scores, basically you have to put in your initial LDA and your final LDA scores for each of your members, and once the final LDA scores are in, you basically compare those 2 scores and then you check if there has been a growth or not. Yes or no, you just have to put that in. Now, moving on to team goals, there are 2 aspects to it: operational goals and non-operational goals. Operational goals, we are going to track it monthly. You have to put in the target and the achieved of approval, realization, and completes for each of your members. And as soon as the achieved numbers are in, it'll automatically generate a percentage of T versus A, which is already given in the formula here, which is automated. And moving on to non-operational goals, it is done quarterly. This requires for a compilation of members' PDP goals, but you can include all the goals or all the aspirations that your members, which is non-operational, which your member expresses through one-to-ones or team meets or through your PDP or the personal development plan meeting that he or she wants to achieve. And at the end of the quarter, all you have to put is a yes or no for whether the goal has been achieved or not. And the team strategies, which is the last thing on the dashboard, is quite literally talks about how we do achieve these goals, which you've mentioned above. You can put in the team strategies and you can always add on more rows and add on more strategies as and when your team advances or the timeline progresses. The next aspect of the MBTS toolkit is the team timeline. And the main purpose that the team timeline serves is that you have all the resources that you need to be tracked on or you need to track in one place. Here, all you need to do is put the task responsible, whether it be a TL or a VP, and you can put the start date. For example, if you've taken your personal development plan in the month of August, you can put the month of August and the end date as whenever that is. And you can just put the proof of the link here. You don't need to put the proof of the link to whichever drive that you have all your resources stored for every aspect. Like you can see here, for initial LDA and for operational timeline and for team working times, it's not asked for, because you can just mark which days of the week that your team is meeting, and that would be sufficient. As for the team meetings, etc., you can just put the link to the agenda and minutes as I'm showing here, so that the only thing you need to do, or the person auditing needs to do, is click on that link and then they can already view the drive where all your data is stored. This team timeline can be done in a quarterly fashion or quarterly, so that everything that you need to be updated is anyway going to be updated in these drives, and the link to these drives remain consistent or the same throughout. So I think updating it quarterly would be sufficient, and as and when you have finished updating it, you can put whether it's only 75% done or whether it's 100% done. Can be Next aspect of it will be the team meetings. It's pretty self-explanatory. For each of your team meetings, you can either put the link of the agenda, sessions, and minutes, or you can type out what your agenda is going to be for each of your meetings, and this has to be updated as soon as each of your team meetings are done, and not just. So the next aspect of the MBTS toolkit is the weekly priority tracker, and as the name suggests, you're supposed to fill it in a weekly basis. So I know there's a huge confusion with respect to this. It's very simple. All you need to do is fill in your monthly goal, which is the goal you have for your team. As I've mentioned here, it's a monthly goal that you need to fill in here. However, these are the weekly tasks you need to put in. For example, 10 inductions and one attraction event, or whatever the weekly targets are that your team wants to meet. And this is going to be your deadline for each of the tasks. And your MOS is basically what you want out of these tasks in the end, which can be one approval and as such. And you just have to basically put in whether it's achieved or not, yes or no. And the goal achieved speaks of your monthly goal, whether how much of it, or how much of the 5 approvals you have been able to achieve in this week. If that is 2 approvals, then you put in that and you move on to the next week. So the same thing you will be doing in the next week also, where you'll be putting in your monthly goal, which will remain the same throughout the month, but your weekly targets will change, or it'll increase, or depending on how your team wants to take it forward, and your deadlines obviously will change as well. You will be filling in the weekly priority tracker in the beginning of all your team meetings, where you take a quick 2 minutes to just review whether the tasks which you discussed and finalized in the previous team meeting is done or not, yes or no. And then you will quickly determine what the tasks are for the next week, either in the beginning itself or in the end of your team meetings. You can obviously customize the priority tracker based on what applies to you as a team, based on your job description and the department in which you belong to. But make sure that you fill the weekly priority tracker on a weekly basis as it is meant to, so you can properly track what are the tasks which is finished by your team, and what are the tasks which are not done by your team, and your goals are being achieved 100% as compared to your targets. The last thing would be team review, which has plan versus achieved review of your targets and achieved. What are the key results that you achieved out of it, and what are the things that did not work for you? It can be on-ground marketing, it can be an event, it can be cold calling leads, etc. Which the member was, which was responsible, the learnings that you got out of it, what worked, what didn't work, and the recommendations for you in the future. So that when you do this on a monthly basis, you know exactly what to do and what not to continue the next month, so that you can definitely make sure that this disparity is not arising again. Individual feedback checklist, again a part of your closing, which will be done at the end of your term. You can just put a simple done or not done, and that would suffice. And even the team feedback checklist is in the same fashion. You can just put a done or not done at the end of your team's tenure, whether it be 6 months or 3 months, depending on your LC. The transition is just to make sure that all the aspects of the transition is 100% given to the next person who is taking over your role. Again, you just have to put a yes or no. The main difference comes in the team review for the MB and the VPTS toolkit, whereby in the VPTS toolkit, we have something additional called the team financial budget. It's very simple. You don't have to go into much detail like you would in a finance report. You just have to put in what is budgeted, income for you, expenses and investments for you, and where these investments and expenses are coming from, and what actually you do incur as an income, expenditure and investment in each month. So if you do this on a monthly basis, it'll help the VPs stick to their budgets and targets, and make sure that they are investing in the correct places, and they do end up making a profit as per your VPF's consideration. So how you can approach the entire audits as a TL or as a VP would be, or as a VPPM in fact would be, first filling the dashboard, of course. That dashboard is only required to be filled once, I feel, because once that is done, there are only a few aspects of the dashboard which will require you to constantly update it, which would be like the monthly operational goals, which requires you to keep updating the achieved on a monthly basis. The targets can be put in one shot. and the non-operational goals, which you will need to update every quarter. The strategies, if you have any new strategies for your team or new and improved, then you can definitely add that on as well. The next two main things would be the team meetings and the weekly performance tracker, which, like I mentioned again, which requires you to fill it weekly. The weekly performance tracker will be taken up in the beginning and at the end of your team meetings every week, and the team meeting agenda and minutes will be updated as soon as your team meetings are over by the TL. Now the team timeline, like once again I mentioned before, can be done on a quarterly basis, where you just put in the links and then the data is constantly updated in the place or in the drive. The review can be done at the end of your term, whether it be 6 months or 3 months, except for just this aspect of it, which is done on a monthly basis. So 3 things that you need to take care of, which is the team meetings and team weekly priority tracker, which is done on a weekly basis, and the reviews, which are done on a monthly basis, so that you can improve your performance based on assessing what went wrong and what can be done better. And another last thing is again the target versus achieved. As soon as you input, you can see the percentage of achieved, so you can keep a track of what exactly are your T versus A is like.
So those were the aspects of the TS toolkit, and if you do have any doubts, there is a section called Read Me First included in the MB TS toolkit, which is basically a sort of FAQs. I hope this helped. Thank you.